right, whenever you're ready for the Mister.
Cool. So I don't usually like talking to a lot of people, so this is weird, so I'll try and get through this without being too awkward. We're the Linux users group. Can I just have a show of hands? Do any of y'all use how many of you used Linux just semi-regular? Do any of you use it all the time on the desktop? Okay, cool. Used to. Yeah, so we're a Linux users group. We also like BSD, any open source kind of stuff. We're really into that. So this is the president. That's Michael. He also goes by Maldridge on IRC. We're big IRC nerds here, right? No shame in that. There's Matthew. He's MWin, vice president. He's president. Tim the Enchanter. Where are you? Tim, secretary, right?
Yes. Yep.
Not that it means anything. And then I'm Aaron. I go by Programisto, and I'm the treasurer. We don't have any money, so it doesn't mean anything. But yeah, this is our first meeting. It's good to see you all here. Usually we had to bribe y'all with pizza last year, but you're all here, and we're just going to go through some basic Linux stuff, right?
Sure. Let's go ahead and give our faculty sponsor, Dr. Newman, a few moments.
Hi guys, it's some of you in my classes before.
Sure. Dr. Newman is a big proponent of Linux on basically everything. So we love to have him as our faculty sponsor, showing us all kinds of neat stuff we can do. Before we really get too far in, a quick disclaimer, because I know that some of you are here because a posting was made in the C and C++ and a Unix environment discussion board. We cannot help you with your homework. We are more than happy to talk about Linux. We're more than happy to talk about open source or free software, but we cannot work on the homework. And several of us are in those classes, so we know what the homeworks are. That aside, how did you guys hear about this meeting? Can I have a show of hands for if you were in IRC and you heard about this meeting? Officers don't count. Did you see this meeting on our website, lug.utdallas.edu? All right. Did any of you hear about this on Facebook? All right. And who here heard about this meeting from someone else? All right. So that seems to be our primary marketing strategy this semester. Well, we do like to put a lot of stuff on IRC, as mentioned. IRC is a chat protocol that we'll get into a little bit later in our meeting. But the basic idea is it's chat from before the days of Skype or AOL Instant Messenger or things like that. It's somewhat primitive by today's standard, but it always works. Our website, we do post our events on there. We will be posting a link to this meeting after we upload it onto YouTube so that you can watch any of the clips or any of the discussions we've had today. And that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. The poster, of course, said, it's a UNIX system. So who here thinks they know what a UNIX system is? Really? Nobody's going to be brave? Nobody's going to go out on a limb and let me call on them? All right, in the back. What is a UNIX system?
Anything with a Unix shell?
That's a good starting point, but that's not quite a Unix system, because I can run a Unix shell on my laptop, but I am decidedly not running Unix.
Does that have POSIX compliance with the system calls?
That's another good category, because certainly all Unix systems do have large swaths of POSIX compatibility, but it is not a requirement to have POSIX compatibility, as we've most certainly seen with the systemd revolution in the last few months. So what's the clip that everybody thinks of with it's a Unix system?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, indeed. So, downloads. No, not downloads. Desktop. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the scene, and we're going to ask you what's ridiculous about it. And then we're going to go in and actually talk about what is the real technology that was there. We have a couple of clips, and we want to really discuss and have a kind of an open forum. Everybody sharing knowledge, everybody cringing at these pop culture icons. In the blue shirt, ATEC Impact. Thank you. Nope, other way.
I know this. It's all the files of the whole park. It tells you everything. I gotta find the right file.
Trying to reach the gun. works.
Phone security systems? Who named it? We got it.
All right, so that clip was certainly cringeworthy. Who wants to take a stab at what's wrong in that picture?
Yeah.
Come on. I know somebody here wants to take a stab.
The file system was illustrated by 3D World Place.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous indeed. Now, one thing that was not ridiculous was the fact when she said, maybe this is the right file. Because one concept in Unix-based operating systems is that everything is a file. Folders are files. They just say, go look over here. Files for devices exist that say, this device for your mouse is specified by a file, and you can open your mouse and just see the raw values coming in off of it. What else is ridiculous in that scene? Let's go for computer ridiculousness, not the fact that the younger brother could have easily stepped away to get the gun for the Velociraptor.
That's right.
Joe, you were about to say something.
I was going to say that the brother could have gotten the gun.
Yes, that is pretty ridiculous. Now,
So there's like no security, like they left the computer like unlocked or something.
That's user error.
that is a little ridiculous, but on a Unix system, it wouldn't be too uncommon, actually, for people to operate as root full-time. There's a famous story at Pixar where they had the terminals logged in as root because everyone needed access to everyone else's workspace. And at the time, there was no really good way to do that. So someone entered the command you'd never want to see enter. Remove recursively, starting at the root. And this was right around the time that Toy Story was getting to be done, their first major motion picture showing that you could make a picture with computers. And it was all gone. And the story goes that there was a very, very expensive silicon graphics machine that one of the Pixar animators had at home, which had a full backup of the movie on it. And so they put the computer in the car, they took it to Pixar's home offices, and then synced the movie back onto the mainframe.
Did the remove method also reformat the hard drive so they couldn't recover it that way?
In general, no. In general, what happens if you do remove recursive is the files themselves are removed, but they're still technically on disk. When you delete something, you only ever get rid of the thing that points to it. This is how, if you ever panic and delete like a term paper or something, there is software that can help you get that back, because the data is still there on disk. Now, if you used a program called Secure Remove, which removes the identifier to the data and then writes 7 passes of random data over that section of disk, then yeah, it's gone. It's also Department of Defense compliant that it's gone. Come on in, have a seat. So, one thing that was mentioned that was ridiculous on that was that the file system was represented in 3D space. Now, that's not nearly as ridiculous as you think. A company called Silicon Graphics had an operating system called IRIX, and it had a lot of POSIX abstraction, had a lot of Unix ideals. It was fairly connected to the Unix philosophy, and they had this thing called the File System Navigator. So someone was kind enough to port this over to Linux, and if I go ahead and actually, I need to back up out of this directory. There we go. Then it'll go through and it'll actually try and compute what the tree is on my file system, what it looks like. And it's working its way through my home folder. Since I do a lot of software development in that folder, it takes it a few moments to go through. Sorry. But this is basically a direct port of the software you saw in the movie. Now, in the movie, they didn't actually run the software live. What you were seeing in that clip was a Mac Plus playing a video that somebody screen captured of an actual system working.
Minecraft.
Come on, Minecraft's updated recently enough. It shouldn't be that big. Yeah. So you can see here, this looks similar to what Jurassic Park had. But if we go to tree view, then this is a UNIX system. I know this. We can go ahead and expand. Let me get a folder that I know will be fun to expand out. Minecraft is fun. think this is the folder I want. No, not versions. We want the assets folder, because if you've played Minecraft, you know that it has a ton of files. There we go. One of the issues of running 80s era software on a modern computer is that it is a bit buggy.
Is it always this, like, just slow moving?
Well, this is a program that I found on the internet and then proceeded to compile so that it would work on my computer.
Ah.
So if I really wanted to go in and try and find where they're making these changes and these decisions within OpenGL, it would be possible to speed it up. But these are the design decisions that were made by the original author for how fast it would move. Come on in, grab a chair. But it is a real thing. So to just kind of show you that it's not really as ridiculous as it might sound to see your file system in 3D space. If you're interested in running this program on your computer and you have a Linux environment, this program is available on GitHub and it has build instructions with it. If you run Ubuntu, it's a single line to build it. If you run other systems, hop on LUG's IRC and we'll do our best. So Jurassic Park is the classic one. It's one that, you know, we look at, we say it's a little ridiculous, but at the same time it's a classic. Another classic one where they do something, you know, is actually real software is The Matrix. And unfortunately it's not, you know, the actual Matrix. It's one of the rather poor quality sequels. But Trinity at one point needs to find out if there are any vulnerabilities in a computer on a remote network. So she runs this program called Network Map, or Nmap. I'm actually going to kill this clip a bit early because it's long. Also, it doesn't go big. So at the top of her window, she actually had run Nmap already.
I don't know what they're doing, but they only got 2 minutes left.
She's now running a program which was real, but for very good reasons we are not going to show you here today. The program that she runs is called SSH Nuke, and it literally just kind of overrides the root credentials on the machine. This was a real issue, but Nmap, which is the program that she runs to find out that there even is a vulnerability, walks along a network and looks for open connections. Now, Nmap is a program that looks kind of fishy when you run it, because you're literally just scanning an endpoint looking for what is it running. For this reason, do not run Nmap on the university network.
What about CIA website?
No, don't run it there either. In fact, don't run Nmap against any host you don't own. So, for this example, I actually own the host, michaelwashere.net, and we'll go ahead and let it run. We can see that what Nmap did was it went and it found all of the remote services that I'm running. We can see that here the service Trinity was looking for. Port 22 in state open is SSH. And I also have a web server and an IRC system running. So we can see that all of that's running just by kind of a quick command.
Does it just scan ports, like common ports, or what? What is it?
It does a couple of different things. I have an Nmap RC because I don't like the default scan method. The default scan method literally has a for loop, and it says, try and open a connection to port 1. Okay, did that work? No. Try and open a connection to port 2. Did that work? Okay. 3, so on. It's rather slow. It doesn't work across a lot of firewalls. It also has the capability of tripping on modern managed switches automatic flood fill protection, which is if a host is misconfigured, the switch will drop it off the network so that it doesn't take down the whole network with it. Mine is actually doing some other stuff that is a bit more advanced than we'll get into here. One thing, though, that is interesting is Nmap thinks that it's got IRC. It has no way of actually confirming that. All it knows is that port number 6667 is open and is accepting a TCP connection. Now, by the the Assigned Internet Numbers Authority, port number 6667 over TCP is allocated for the use of IRC, or Internet Relay Chat. And so what Nmap does is it looks at it, it says, okay, well, I got to this port, so it's probably IRC. Nmap can actually run a lot more deeper checks and tell you, like, what version of what IRC server is being run. what operating system is on the remote host. If you want to learn more about that kind of stuff, I highly recommend attending a Open Lab Saturday with the computer security group, because they know all about this stuff, and they are more than happy to teach anyone at any skill level. Does anyone have anything else ridiculous that they caught in that clip?
She knows the root password.
Not quite. SSH nuke. The command that she ran exploited a vulnerability in SSH version 1.0.
No, but she typed a password.
Oh, sudo. Got a sudo. Always sudo. Anything else that was noticed that seemed a little bit off in that scene? All right.
The end curses pop-up which said access denied with the annoying beep.
Yes.
That never happens.
Yes. The interface that she was using was called ncurses, which basically draws full windows using text. So using pipes and dashes and characters, you can synthesize the appearance of a graphical interface. It can't generate actual pop-up windows. It can only draw on top of what's already there. So that one's entertaining, but it's not quite as ridiculous as you might think. There are some modern variants of ncurses that are actually capable of launching full graphical windows. They're generally very buggy and shouldn't be run on production systems, but they do exist. All right, who here has seen the TV show Numbers? All right, so a few of you guys have seen it. The basic premise of Numbers is that there's these two brothers. One of them works for the FBI, and one of them is a mathematician. And the mathematician solves all kinds of interesting problems using dubious computer science and mathematics concepts. And in fact, one clip, they have to track two hackers that are trying to meet up. And they're meeting up over IRC. And this is why I said we'd get into it later in the meeting. I'm going to cut in front of you.
No, it's okay.
Still no sign of Feigenbaum trying to attack all these sites.
No. Zal Feigenbaum is easily as good a hacker as Ogden.
Yeah, he's probably trying to decode the back door too.
You know, what if he's not trying to hack Ogden? I mean, what if he's trying to find it?
IRC, Internet Relay Chat. It's how hackers talk when they don't want to be overheard.
It's a pretty primitive example.
These are like shipping channels in the ocean. You can't see them until a boat cuts through the water leading away. If two boats meet in the middle of the ocean to swap a load of illegal drugs, you have to catch them in real time. Otherwise, there's no evidence of the meeting left behind.
Names, no accounts, no records of exchange.
Well, how do they see each other?
Online names.
Okay, so what? We got the fist, and what's our armies?
Oozmeister. I'll set up an alarm to alert us if either name enters an IRC channel.
And can we see what they're saying?
In leet speak. Luckily, I speak leet.
That's so hard.
All right, Feigenbaum's online.
Yeah, I'll get done.
What are they saying?
Okay, got a surprise for you. Funny, got one for you too.
You got a trace? We'll be offline before we get a location.
We should meet. Touch my system and it will eat your young. Okay, that was all.
Right, so what? Feigenbaum wants to meet. Augie's rewriting his code.
There, wait, you guys wait. This is going to be over in a second. Can we get a screenshot? Got it.
All right, so there's a lot of stuff in that. Who wants to go first? Who's got something silly?
Any programmer worth their salt is a touch typist and will not be using leet speak in an IRC channel.
Yeah, I'll accept that one. Also, luckily I speak leet.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
All right, who else has something ridiculous they saw in that one?
She kept calling it IRC chat, which would mean Internet Relay Chat.
Yes, that's a common one. That's like saying a PAM module, a pluggable authentication module.
Or an ATM machine.
Yes.
My mom still does that.
Sniffing all IRC chat on the entire internet?
Not as far-fetched as you might think.
Yeah.
IRC is actually not that much data because it's pure text.
And unencrypted, yes.
Debatable. Anybody else?
if you're trying to like meet up with someone and do something illegal, why would you do it in clear text on IRC without like any kind of encryption?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about that one too. But you have to suspend a lot of disbelief for numbers to be funny.
The screenshot is apparently valid proof of a hacker conversation.
Well, I would go back to just a screenshot is the only way to save that data. Come on, does their computer not have copy-paste?
And that they were already scraping all of it to begin with.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so let's take a look at what IRC actually looks like. Let me join to LUG's IRC server, and I'm going to kill my projector feed for a second. Okay.
Out of curiosity, what exactly is your computer running?
I am running Void Linux.
Same here.
And when I want to shunt a window to the second monitor.
What is Void Linux?
You can drag it.
Do you want to shunt it to a second monitor?
Yeah.
Michael, can you say what Void is?
Void Linux is a kind of new distribution of Linux. It's developed by a couple guys in Europe that looked at all the existing distributions of Linux, decided they weren't happy with them, and said they could do better. So that's generally how new distributions of Linux come about. Is somebody says, I'm not happy with the old way it was done, I can do it better. And so they make their attempt. Some people agree with them, some people disagree with them, but it's another Linux distribution, and hopefully more people will be happy.
Is it deb-based?
No, they developed their own packaging format, which is similar to RPM, but substantially faster than anything else on the market.
It's also got a rolling release, so as more packages are compiled, it doesn't like have specific versions. It just, you always have to keep updating, like, whenever a package updates, you
If that's all you need, you just need Arch.
All right, so this is IRC. This is what it actually looks like. There's none of this leet speak in this channel. So, you know, we're all talking in clear text.
Phi will likely kick you if you start using leet speak.
Yeah, everyone, though, does have a screen name. That is something reasonable. So I am Maldridge. And when would you wave, please? So he just said hello. And the idea that none of this is, you know, saved anywhere is a little ridiculous. Every single person in the channel is logging everything that is said. That's on by default with IRC. So it's a little ridiculous to think that there's no record of anything said. We still have scrollback online, don't we?
No.
Okay. We at one point had a service also that saved everything that was said, so that if there was somebody saying, oh man, what was that cool tool that was mentioned last week, you could go back in and find it. We do have a service, though, that saves links that are posted, because invariably someone will, a week down the line, want to know where were those Red Hat languages stored, and they won't want to scroll all the way up.
Or cat pictures.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so this is IRC. Does anyone have any questions about what IRC is? We really invite you guys to join the LUG channel. We have a web chat on our website, and it's a great way to find out more about Linux, be a bit more social, have more just talking to other people. No question?
The web client is rather non-obvious. Would you walk some of us through that?
Sure, I can load that. Before I do that, though, one thing I would like to just dispel real quick was that it's in the clear, that it's unencrypted. We're connected to OFTC using SSL. SSL you normally only see with HTTPS for secure web pages. In reality, that is a way that you can secure any communications at all. So we have IRC running in a secure format just because, well, why not? We have the compute power, might as well use it. So to show how to get onto the web chat, first you would go to lug.utdallas.edu, and this is our website. Now, my screen over here is wider than the projector screen, so I may have to scroll to get some things on there. And if you click on the Chat with Us button, you'll get a new page that takes it a few seconds to load because what is normally done in C is here being done in JavaScript. And we get a connect to OFC IRC network. Now, the nickname box, you can put anything you want in it. That is what you will be identified as in the channel. Now, we do ask that you keep it clean. We ask that you not be offensive. We are a moderated channel, so just keep that in mind. But I will type in that we are projector ECS. And when I connect, I suspect other people are trying this at the same time. Would I be correct on that?
Noxon, bad font kerning, or kemming.
There we go. So, I am in the... no, I want to go the other way. Right. Oh, that is annoying. So, I have a web chat up. You guys can't see it, but on the far right side there is a list of everyone who is in the channel. So if you're wondering, like, hey, I wanted to talk to that person, they were really cool a couple of days ago, you can see on the right side if they're there. Moment. Okay, there we go. Now that that's been dealt with, no more leet speak in the channel. We can continue. Before I move on, because IRC really is an important thing in Linux, it's an important thing in, really even in just software, working as a professional in software design and development, because there's the mailing lists if you need help on a problem, but oftentimes projects maintain an IRC channel. So if you need help now, you can ask on IRC, and in general, you're talking to the developers. Let's see, what is our next cringe-worthy clip? Okay, this one I could not get a clip for, but I have 2 pictures for it. Who's seen Tron Legacy? It's all fake, right? Couldn't possibly be anything real in Tron Legacy. I mean, come on, getting scanned with a laser, getting sent into a computer, too ridiculous. So, one thing that they did have reasonably correct was some of the screens that they use. Everything that you see on screen in Tron Legacy is a real command being run on a real system. So here, we're looking for some process. So as root, we request the entire process table. We pipe it through grep for generic regex and print. And we ask for case and sensitivity. Now, further off the screen is more. But we get back 2 processes. We say, OK, kill it. And we give it the process number. So everything they do in Tron Legacy, everything you see on screen is an actual command, up to and including this terminal window he's looking in here. This is actually eShell. You'll hear a lot of argument in the Linux community for Vim or Vi versus Emacs. Emacs and Vi are text editors. Emacs has a lot more than text editing, though, by default. So, for example, I can run eShell. And I now have a shell inside of my text editor. And we can run a similar command to what they ran. Give me a process. Okay.
Yes.
We can see, okay, Moldridge is running 2 processes that included Emacs in the name. One of them is Emacs itself. One of them is the command looking for any commands with Emacs in the name. It's one of these great recursive things. It just descends inward. And we could, of course, then do kill TAC9 and provide it with the process number, which in this case is 6795.
Just type 1, it'll be quicker.
No.
What?
Sorry,
Yeah, you tried to kill grep.
Yeah. Did I? Yeah, I killed grep.
No.
767.
You're not. Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. I'm running one of those things. I came from Debian for years, and then now being on Void, some of the commands don't work the way I'm used to. But that's gonna bug me for a while. I've got to go look at why kill didn't take that. Now, something interesting has happened here in that kill completed, meaning Emacs was sent a signal to shut down, but Emacs is still running. For sake of not having too many things corrupt on my system, I'm going to just kill the whole window it's in.
I think it's just because it's sent it to SIGINT.
I have Emacs configured to respect SIGINT because I have some Git stuff that needs it. But yeah, so that is Tron. Tron is one of those great movies for actually having real stuff. And in fact, if you Google like Emacs in Tron, one of the VFX artists has most of his source code online for some of the animations you see in the movie, and you're able to go back and look at them, see how they made the magic. So, for one more clip, what's the clip that everybody kind of thinks is ridiculous when we think of computers? Not necessarily even Linux or Unix. What's one that's cringe-worthy from everybody's favorite TV show that doesn't understand computers?
NCIS?
Close. CSI.
I don't know where I got that from. But maybe.
Now, not the one where you have the two people on one keyboard. That's ridiculous.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No, you just hack
No,
by
that
pressing
would be,
random buttons, right?
It was on the board.
For weeks I've been investigating the Cabby Killer murders with a certain morbid fascination.
This is in real time. I'll create a GUI interface using Visual Basic.
Wow, she must be the fastest typer in the world.
Oh, you don't have to type for Visual Basic.
All right, so what? Oh, okay. All right, so what have we got that was ridiculous in that scene? There's two or three.
They're using Microsoft?
Okay, that's a little ridiculous, but we'll let that one slide.
Taking the extra time to make a GUI interface.
Okay, the GUI interface is pretty ridiculous. I'll grant them Visual Basic because it's easy to make an interface in Visual Basic.
Wait, she's like, oh, wait, no, never mind.
Yeah.
No mercy.
Now, if I'm going to give them Windows, I'll give them Visual Basic. Anything else that seemed just a little ridiculous there?
They already have a GUI interface?
Well, yes, they were already in a GUI, which, why are we building another one? But pinging the IP address. If you're familiar with networking, or if you play online games, then you know your ping is a number. And that number is how fast can you get from your machine to an endpoint and back. Doesn't really do them a whole lot of good to know how fast they can get to the villain's computer, because they've already established that the villain's computer is functional, connected to the internet, and able to apparently post updates to a blog. So, pinging it might be a little ridiculous. Tracing it would be better, but yeah. Now, of course, if we've learned anything, it's that the Linux and Unix crowd love to take things non-ironically. So, of course, someone wrote a GUI in Visual Basic to ping an IP address. So yes, we have an interface written in Visual Basic to ping an IP address.
That's hard to look at.
So we'll go for 8.8.8.8, which is one of Google's DNS servers.
It's on every website.
Yeah. All right, so we've successfully pinged an IP address using Visual Basic. Unfortunately, yeah, we didn't find the killer, so I guess their case will stay open for a little while. Maybe we'll see it next week on Cold Case Files. All right, so are there any questions about our cringe-worthy TV and pop culture before I hand it off to Matthew to go over what is Unix actually? Yes, Dino?
Why is it initializing app armor?
No idea. I did not write this monstrosity.
It's also running on top of wine, so who knows what's going on.
But you can find this online. I just Googled Visual Basic in GUI for ping, and this was the #1 hit. It was linked to me from Reddit.
Oh, wait, I know what.
Killer's Lost 1.
Yeah.
Killer's Lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you catch this?
Is that actually the frequency of your processor?
Where? No. Yeah, that is a 4 gigahertz processor in that machine. So I suspect they're doing some dubious math.
They're running a Linux shell inside of
Yeah.
your wine instance inside of your
Yeah, the rabbit hole does go quite deep on this program. Well, if there are no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matthew, who's going to talk a bit. Sorry, in the back? Yep.
The TV show Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
Now that is one I haven't seen.
The first episode
they have a
has
technical advisor that supposedly they do a pretty good job of keeping the details decent, right? So,
okay.
Yeah, it's a decent TV show too.
All right.
Apparently they suck at finding out what window, what desktop manager you're using. So
Yes.
he's talking about GNOME, but he's actually running LXD.
Yes, well, and the very fact that somebody says, "Oh, I see you're running GNOME," it's kind of sure. In 2005, when GNOME and KDE were really the two big giants duking it out with each other, that'd be a viable comment. It's 2015. Everyone's running GNOME or Unity. There's a few KDE people left, but not many machines that aren't gaming rigs can run KDE with all of the visual effects turned on. And Dino, I see you're rolling your eyes at me, but I'm talking about full wobbly windows with cursor trails and everything.
Well, I mean, you turn all the GNOME effects on with the comp-is.
That's no fun. You got to turn on all the goodies, everything.
Well, if they're there, I mean, why not?
Okay. All right. Fair.
All right.
Do you want the sheet, or do you have it?
I'll take the sheet.
Do you need the projector feed?
I don't need the projector, but I would. All right. So, it's a UNIX system. Let's talk a little bit about what UNIX actually is. UNIX was an operating system developed a long time ago by AT&T. Well, then it wasn't called AT&T. And it introduced a lot of new features, a lot of new philosophies. Everything's a file. Every program does one thing and does it well, except for Emacs. And things like that. And so it really revolutionized the way we think about computing. But nobody uses Unix anymore. It is extremely expensive. It is still being maintained, but I would not recommend you downloading it and using it on your computer.
Matthew, could my home computer run Unix?
I don't know. Could it? I have not tried.
Given that I collect legacy computers, probably not.
Probably one of yours could run Unix. At least. All right. It did have a use. Large institutions and banks would use Unix, and many of them have not upgraded since to something a little bit cheaper. I'm sorry. But today, you're not going to be using Unix. Instead, we have Linux and BSD and derivatives of them. Who here has a smartphone that's not Windows Phone? Congratulations, you are using Unix or some Unix derivative. iOS and Mac are running BSD. BSD, Berkeley Software Distribution, is a direct fork from Unix. If you're running Android, you're running the Linux kernel, which is also a descendant from Unix.
Can you tell us what it means for a project to be a fork?
To be a fork. We have a lot of forks these days. Let's say Maldridge has a project that he's running. He has the source code available, and I like it, but I want to kind of take things my own way, not kind of the original idea Maldridge had in mind. I can fork his software with his permission, of course, and I can take it my direction and distribute it, giving additional attribution to Maldridge as the original creator. So when BSD is a fork of Unix, that means it uses the original core, the original code that Unix did, but it's going in a separate direction. Same with Linux. I want to talk a little bit about who uses Linux today. A lot of the people who use Linux are going to be on the web. So web servers. It is difficult to get an estimate of how many web servers run Linux or Unix because you would have to download information from a lot of web servers and then scan the headers and figure out which operating system they're using. But several people have tried to do this and have gotten some interesting estimates. Over 1/3 of web servers respond that they use Linux. Another third say that they use some sort of BSD, whether it is FreeBSD, HPUX, Solaris, or OSX, which does not usually make servers anymore, but there are still some OSX servers out there. And the other third use Windows. I talked a little bit about smartphones. 53%, 54% actually, run Linux. Those are the Android ones. 31% run BSD. And only 1.87%, 2% of smartphones run Linux. And the rest, 13% run something else. Supercomputers. Supercomputers usually run Linux. In fact, from the top 500 supercomputers, 97% of them run Linux. 2.4% run BSD, or AIX actually, another form of Unix. And one single supercomputer ranked the 436th fastest supercomputer in the world, so it's kind of getting towards the end of the top 500, runs Windows.
And we are so glad that we don't have any part of that Windows supercomputer.
While on the subject gaming consoles, how many of you are excited for SteamOS? That will be running Linux.
What about the Steam Box? The super cheap gaming PC?
No.
Okay, well, if you already have one, you don't get to.
The controller looks nice, though.
That runs Linux.
Yeah,
how many of you have a PlayStation 3? Or I think any PlayStation, actually. That runs Unix. It is a fork of Unix. And if you have an Xbox, you're running Windows. And both of them have about 30% market share. SteamOS, no numbers yet. So, as you can see, a lot of people are running Linux and Unix.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
You guys have TV? A smart TV?
Yeah.
Do you know that what OS they are using in there?
Linux?
Linux.
Android.
Linux, not Android. Right? The Panasonic use it, Sharp use it, Samsung use it. There's another thing that Matt doesn't say, embedded market, where you have a small processor that run software, run thing like inside your fridge, inside your TV, with Linux.
You guys may know that market more as the Internet of Things.
If you are interested in this, Dr. Newt here is very well versed on small devices that can run Linux.
No, actually, my hobby. I just told you guys, some of you in my classes, but I want to add a little bit more about the original of Unix. Matt said that with AT&T, but actually more accurately Bell Lab.
Yes, there's Bell Labs.
And you know why they invented Unix? And in the process invented also the language called C. C programming language was invented to write UNIX system. And that is for, telephone switches. The telephone switches to those machines that connect your call. When you make a call, they run the software to allocate resources so that you can connect your call so you can talk. And Bell Lab was part of, with the R&D arm of AT&T, and they were charged with new technology to develop switches faster and more advanced. And that's how it was born. And then I think initially it was System 5, and it forked to BSD. And BSD improved it and put networking into it, and then distributed for free. And that's how it's expanded. I was the grad students in the around 80s, and we requested, I was in Tokyo, and we requested the BSD, and they sent us the types, magnetic types. And it was really excited because it had every source code in it. The source code, and everything. Because university, they cannot make money, and they have to disclose what they develop. So that how is spread all over the world. The UNIX and Linux is started by one person. You guys know, right? Linus Torvald.
Yes.
And I think that's around 90s. And he had a fight with his professors, Andrew Tannenbaum, who wrote UNIX. And the famous word from the professor, "You will fail in my class." All right? You fail. If you take my class, you will fail. But in any case, so at that time, he wrote the kernel. And at that time, around that time, the internet started to be available. So he put it on the internet and showed it to everybody. And actually, in fact, I was, also look at the code. And I sent email to him because I found some bug. And that is how it started. And everybody can look at it, can send in comment, can send in, code, and that is what makes Linux great. And then it started the phenomena open source because the success of Linux. But that is the history. So sorry to take your time.
We thank you very much for the history.
The history from a perspective of old man.
Do you by chance remember how many tapes they shipped?
I don't know, but back then, every university in the world, if you send a request and pay, I think it's about $200, they would ship you tapes. So I would imagine millions, because every university wants to have a full-on UNIX. And a lot of people, university asked grad students to port it. They only run on a machine called VAX machine. How many of you heard of a machine called VAX?
Vaccine.
And that is the king of mini computers. So in the 70, mainframe is the king, IBM. But IBM don't want to have anything to do with UNIX. So the person who invented UNIX and C have to use a mini computers and develop a company called DEC, DEC, and get bought by Tandem and then get bought by HP. But the mini computers, PDP series, was the one that used to develop UNIX. So if you have that machine, you don't have to do anything. But if you have other machines, architecture, you have to port it. But because the source code is available, and a lot of cheap labor in university, graduate students, so that is how they spread UNIX. They spread like crazy. And now embedded market. Even I think this little thing also have something to do with perhaps embedded small version Linux or Unix. And there's some thing I think like routers. Linksys.
Your internet routers?
Yeah. Your internet routers run Linux. Right. So everywhere. Yeah. And if you are curious about it, you can do a lot of fun thing with it. And at home, I have a set of environments. I can compile the kernel and the file system for my little small thing. I have one in the Linux group, and I can do media server, file servers, BitTorrent. Don't tell anybody. Client. But it is very versatile. You can do a lot of things. People do it for like secure firewall and a lot of applications. So if you are interested in, you can develop all kind of fun applications with it.
All right. Well, speaking of fun, one thing that everybody always likes to say is there's no games. 20 years ago, maybe. But actually, a fun fact is that on the PDP made by DEC Digital Electronics Corporation, if you ever played the arcade game Asteroids, where you're a ship and you're flying around and you're trying to blow up all of the rocks that are coming towards you, that was developed on a PDP. And it then had to be kind of dumbed down to run on the level of hardware that arcade places could afford.
By the way, speaking of games, you guys are the generation of graphic games, like PlayStations and things like that. We did play games when I was like your age, but we didn't have graphic. What did we do? We play game characters. Like Mike was talking about Curse, the one that emulate the screen. We had some game called Rogue, and that every student was addicted to it. And because we didn't have graphic, but we want to play games, so that's the game that we play, and then it become Hack. Developed further into again
NetHack.
Hack and then NetHack.
Okay.
NetHack is for online players.
Okay. Yeah.
So you got lucky now, so you can play, on the real graphic and so. But your parents' generation, my generation, we play with characters. Yes.
One thing to note with games is that SteamOS, as much as that's a thing that Valve is doing, any game that's SteamOS, as far as I've found, also works straight up on Linux. You can install the Steam client on most user-friendly Linux distributions, basically any of the Ubuntu variants, and play those SteamOS games. Not all of them work as efficiently as they do on Windows, but you can run them.
Well, that's because SteamOS is an Ubuntu kernel with Steam on top.
Yep. Proprietary drivers for some like graphics.
Yes, so you have to install the non-free repositories. It's not very hard.
I have a quick question for you guys. How many of you write programs in C language? C language was developed to write Unix, so it's pretty close to hardware. You can manipulate the bit and byte, and it's still preferred languages for people who write, the thing to do with hardware. They have C++, just to add object-oriented to it, aspect to it, but it's too heavy. So if you want to, to hone your skill, my suggestion is write program with low language like C. It's not as low as assembly language, where some of you start going my course. But it's pretty fun language, C. So if you have a desire to work closely with hardware, master C. Okay.
Okay, before I finish up, I just want to put on another fun fact. A lot of people know that Google is going to run Linux for all of their servers, their mainframe. But did you know that all employees of Google are required to run an Ubuntu fork named Kubuntu? And so, if you go to work for Google, you get to work with Kubuntu. That's about it.
Is that spelled G-O-O or G-U?
G-O-O.
Yes.
Of course. Yes.
Come on.
All right. I'm going to hand it off to Maldridge in a second to talk about what our upcoming topics are. But before I get there, any questions about the meeting or anything Linux or Unix related?
You said Unix itself is still maintained?
Unix is still a thing you can get.
Who is maintaining that currently?
I believe AT&T.
Okay.
Yes,
what did AT&T used to be called when they developed Unix?
This was Bell Labs. And so I don't know if Bell Labs was exactly AT&T, but at one point AT&T bought Bell Labs.
Yes. Bell Labs was separate, and then AT&T bought Bell Labs in it.
Yeah.
At some point in time, it was AT&T and Bell Labs.
Right.
But now it's AT&T.
Okay. Would you like to talk about our next topics?
Sure. So we've got a lot of topics this semester coming up that are really interesting. We think you'll enjoy them. We really hope you'll come back, join us for another meeting. One of our topics coming up very soon will be a day in class with Linux. Some people wonder what if I install Linux on my personal computer? How will I get through class? Well, we're going to show exactly how you would get through an average day of class for a CS major, an SE major. If we can come up with things for other majors, we'll certainly have that as well. We'll be having a guest speaker come in talking about what is open source with Perl 6 and what is the real world software development like. Somebody who's been in the open source community for decades now and can share their views as to what has it been like. We'll be having an install fest later in the semester where if you want to play with Linux, bring a computer, we'll show you how to set up a virtual machine so you can have a virtual Linux computer without really much risk. There's still some risk, but much less than trying to dual boot Linux with Windows.
How risky is that in general, though?
Not that scary.
As long as you follow directions, slim to none.
Alright.
If you don't follow directions, it destroys your window.
We're also going to have a meeting on coding productivity, how to set up your environment exactly as you liked it. I know I mentioned several times that my environment is very customized the way I like it. We'll have a meeting on that. We'll also have a meeting where we're affectionately calling it Editor Wars. You've heard us kind of go back and forth for Vim and Vi versus Emacs. We're going to have a meeting where we talk about that and why are people so entrenched and so worked up over this split. One of our last meetings that we have planned all the way out right now is Linux where it doesn't belong. You've heard a lot in this meeting about embedded devices, the Internet of Things, devices that you might not expect to run Linux that actually run Linux. We'll have a meeting discussing some of those, discussing why do they run Linux, and is there a way for you to contribute to projects like that. So, with that, are there any questions? I see.
What distribution would you run on a coffee pot?
I would run NetBSD on a coffee pot, and I would use Kerberos authentication to ensure that only people in the brewers group are authorized to brew coffee.
If you were going to code on it, you use NetBeans.
Indeed, I believe I would. But of course, to request my coffee, I would of course make it RFC 1147 compliant using the Hypertext Transfer Protocol for coffee pot control. So.
Oh, it is. Oh my God.
All right. Thank you. With that, Dino, if you'll go ahead and kill our recording.
How do I do that?
But thank you, everyone, for coming.